Military rule is the cause of the anarchic situation in Pakistan. Military rule is not the solution. Extremism thrives under dictatorship.
She was born into an influential and wealthy family in Pakistan. Her father was a politician who rose to become the Prime Minister of Pakistan. Growing up, she had the opportunity of meeting the creme de la creme of the Pakistani society and of the world, mostly when visits were made to her father and when she accompanied her father on a diplomatic mission. She was educated at home in Pakistan and abroad in the United Kingdom and in the United States of America. Upon completion of her studies abroad, she returned to her country of birth and took active part in politics. She won election twice as Prime Minister of Pakistan. After her second term as Prime Minister, she was faced with threats and arrest from the military, and for this reason she fled the country and stayed abroad for several years. In 2007, she returned to Pakistan and again aspired to participate in the general election for the office of Prime Minister. Sadly, in the course of a campaign rally, she was shot and killed in broad daylight. Her name, Benazir Bhutto. In this edition of Back in History, we bring to you the story of the gruesome assassination of one of Pakistan's most outstanding women of all time. We also bring to you her education and family history. Welcome to this edition of Back in History. Benazir Bhutto is recorded in history as the first woman to be elected to head a democratic government in a Muslim-majority country. She was a member of the Pakistan People's Party, the PPP, and from the early 1980s until her assassination, she served as chairman and co-chairman of the party. She took active part in the politics of Pakistan, and in 1988 she won election as Prime Minister of the country. She served from 1988 to 1990. She contested again for the same office in 1993 and won, and was sworn in to serve as Prime Minister of Pakistan from 1993 to 1996. She was still full of energy and remained very active in the politics of Pakistan. In 2007, she again declared her aspiration to contest for the office of Prime Minister. She embarked on campaign rallies and tours and met with several persons and solicited their support for the coveted office. She was gearing up for the general election, which was to hold in 2008, and analysts have said that her chances of victory at the election were really bright, with many persons deciding ahead of time to cast their votes for her, especially as she had earlier served as Prime Minister, to the admiration of many. Benazir was indeed a popular political figure in Pakistan. She was well educated, she was brave, she was outspoken. Having lived abroad for several years, Benazir returned to Pakistan with a clearly defined world view, and in Pakistan she advocated for liberal changes and the introduction of some breath of fresh air into the traditionally conservative Muslim country of Pakistan. She sought to introduce democracy in its purest form. She oversaw economic privatization and made bold attempts to advance women's rights in Pakistan. Bhutto was committed to democracy and modernization. Her governance style and political philosophy were widely accepted by many, and for this reason, she became very popular among several people in Pakistan. She was also seriously opposed by several persons, mostly the conservatives, who held on strongly to the traditional way of life of the people. In her bid for the office of Prime Minister for the third time in 2007, the opposition against her did not cease. This time around, the opposition came with threats to her life. There were assassination attempts, but her life was not consumed. She took precautionary measures to save her life, such as going out for campaign in bulletproof vehicles and going in the company of private security guards and armed escorts. She was very careful and took nothing to chance. She knew that the threats were real. At that time, Pakistan as a country had witnessed several cases of assassination, some politically motivated and others carried out by violent groups. But Benazir was undaunted. She wanted to serve her people. She forged on with her campaigns and rallies and was widely accepted by her people, most of whom had vowed to vote for her. She was hopeful of victory and may have already drawn her blueprints for the country. Little did she know that she was not going to be alive to witness the election, let alone win the election and be sworn in as Prime Minister. Her time on earth was sadly drawing closer and closer by the day. But like every other mortal, Benazir was oblivious of what was awaiting her. Benazir Bhutto left for a political rally in Rawalpindi on 27th December 2007. Several of her supporters were already waiting for her at the rally ground. Benazir gave a speech at the rally and received the applause of her supporters. Done with her speech, Benazir left the venue and was driven out from the gate by her driver and accompanied by her armed escorts. On coming out from the venue, she met hundreds of her supporters by the roadside who were happily cheering and waving at her. Benazir then pressed the inner button of the bulletproof vehicle and opened the rooftop of the vehicle and brought herself out from the open roof to receive and return the cheers from her people. This was where Benazir got it wrong. She had exposed herself to danger. She was no more under the protective cover of the bulletproof vehicle. Any attack against her at that moment was surely going to hit her. And indeed, Benazir was attacked. 3 gunshots were fired at Benazir and she was fatally hit on the head. She fell back into the vehicle, but at this point, she was brutally wounded. She was not going to survive it. A bomb was also detonated in the environment and not less than 22 people lost their lives. Benazir was rushed to Rawalpindi General Hospital but was clinically dead on arrival, and all attempts at resuscitating her was unsuccessful. Having been confirmed dead, her body was immediately transported to Chaklala Air Base, from where she was flown home and buried the following day next to her father in the Bhutto family graveyard near Lakana. It then dawned sadly on family members, supporters, and admirers across the globe that Benazir Bhutto, one of the most powerful women in the history of global politics, had just been cut down in the most gruesome manner in her country of birth. Tributes began to pour in from all over the world. Pervez Musharraf, who was the head of the country at the time, declared a 3-day period of mourning in honor of Bhutto. There were protests in several parts of the country by people who considered her assassination to be politically motivated. The assassination of Benazir Bhutto brought to an end an era in female participation in the politics of Pakistan. Born in Karachi in 1953, Benazir Bhutto was the first child of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and his wife Begum Nusrat. Benazir attended Lady Jennings Nursery School in Karachi. She was then sent to the Convent of Jesus and Mary in Karachi, and from there to the Jesus and Mary Convent, a boarding school in Muri. At the age of 16, Benazir traveled to the United States of America, where she studied for an undergraduate degree at Radcliffe College, Harvard University. At Harvard, Benazir Bhutto majored in comparative government and graduated with a first class in 1973. Benazir then relocated to the United Kingdom and began studying for a second undergraduate degree in philosophy, politics, and economics at Lady Margaret Hall, University of Oxford. After 3 years, she graduated and received her degree certificates. At her father's insistence, she remained in Oxford to study for a 1-year postgraduate degree in international law and diplomacy, and at this point she attended St. Catherine's College, Oxford. In 1977, she was elected president of the Oxford Union Debating Society and became the first Asian woman to hold that post. Long before she became the Prime Minister of her country, Benazir Bhutto had prepared herself educationally and otherwise for public office and leadership. Her untimely and very brutal assassination remains a painful reminder to family members, friends, and loved ones from across Pakistan and across the world. Benazir was married to Asif Ali Zardari, and together they had 3 children. One of her children was born while she was in office as Prime Minister, thus making her at the time the first elected head of government to give birth while in office. Thanks for watching this episode of Back in History, and do remember to subscribe to the channel or follow the page for regular notification on every new video.